Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So today we're having a little fun. It's a little different. We are doing a little experiment with both a simultaneous cast on both Periscope and Facebook Live. I'm Lily with San Antonio Water System.
I'm Brad with San Antonio Water System.
And this is Brad, yes, with the Conservation Department at San Antonio Water System. And we are at the San Antonio Botanical Gardens today, and we are here using this space to illustrate examples of very ideal landscapes or not so ideal landscapes. So Brad is going to take us through a couple of different landscapes. We hope that you will have some questions to ask us. I know on Periscope you can swipe to share, so please swipe, share, give us hearts if the topic is of interest. I'm not 100% sure what we do on Facebook Live, so if there is a way for you to share on Facebook Live, please do so. We would really appreciate that. So we'll get started. Brad, tell us, we're right in front of what is the traditional American lawn, correct?
Yeah, and we're on Watersaver Lane at the Botanical Gardens, where there are examples of typical landscapes in San Antonio. And this is a very typical landscape in San Antonio. And it's I visit a lot of homes and meet with homeowners. And this is a traditional American lawn. One thing you'll notice is there's some annuals, some foundation shrubs, and nothing else but a sea of grass. This grass, a lot of homeowners at a house like this will tell me, what do I need to do? I'm feeling a lot of boredom.
Yeah, it's a little boring, you know, and we've got a little walkway. Usually it's a sidewalk, right, leading up to your front door.
It's a concrete sidewalk. With this much boredom, it's unfortunate that this takes so much effort and water to keep looking good.
Yeah.
A lot of homeowners tell me they're not interested in Xeriscape. As if that's a bad word.
That's right. Well,
but Xeriscape's easy. Here's the example between a traditional lawn, it's a water-hungry lawn, and a Xeriscape. And the typical feature is that the lawn is much smaller. 30% of the landscape is lawn instead of nearly 100%. This landscape is also in shade, so it's a little darker. If this was your home, Lily might be complaining. She might say, "Oh, it needs color."
That's right. I like color, so for sure.
Color is easy, and you can use gardenstylesa.com to find plants that will grow in shade or sun.
But so, talking about color, we do have some amazing examples of color right down the space.
Right down the street here.
All right, so let's
and if you can follow along with us, we're not sure if you can.
Yeah, we think you can follow along with us.
Oh, it's nice to be here with you, Lily.
Yeah, you know, I actually like this space a lot. And this has got to be my favorite landscape.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I used to work at Watersaver Lane, and everyone's favorite landscape is this one.
Yeah.
What do you see? What are you liking?
Well, what I like about it is the color and the texture, the height. It's just visually interesting, and it also seems like there's a lot of fruit and a lot of scent happening in this landscape.
It smells good here.
Yes, it does. Really good.
Well, what you're seeing is that, in part, the landscape beds at this house are so much bigger. And that's a fundamental design difference between the houses we just looked at, which are all turf, and here. So where you see the turf is pleasant enough to sit on and water on a hot day, but it's not the entire landscape. So this is an ideal turf.
And this isn't even really watered, is it?
It's not even, there aren't even sprinklers here.
Yeah.
So if everyone's lawn was this big, imagine how much color, and imagine how much color we'd have in San Antonio and how good it would smell.
So one of the things, I just recently took out all the grass in my front yard, and and I'm hoping to have a landscape like this at some point. But my plants are small, so for the average homeowner that's thinking about how am I going to turn that traditional American lawn we just saw into something like this, what can we tell them, and what kind of time frame will it take to transform that?
And in my opinion, if you use the right plants, a single growing season is sufficient to grow masses of color. Lily did use, she mentioned, some plants are very small, and those plants tend to be annuals and small plants. It helps to read the tags on the plants, but if you're using small plants, put them in front, on the end cap. A lot of the perennials will eventually grow to huge size, and these can be cut back in winter when they need to be, but you put those in the back.
So while this looks like it might be more work, it actually maybe is a little less work than maintaining a traditional lawn.
Because some of these are native plants that don't have to be watered at all. They can be cut twice a year. A lawn is going to have to be cut every week for spring, summer, for 4 months at least of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, some design elements that maybe people should consider, you know, like the type of hardscape or walkways, pathways. What can we share about that? What are some good tips?
Well, there's a lot of hardscape design suggestions on gardenstylesa.com. But in general, you can use pathways to define the landscape and the edges of the beds. It gives you a place to walk. The classic design strategy here is my favorite, the Nike swoosh. And you see this line, a gentle curve is a rule of thumb in landscaping. You try to stay away from straight lines. So it makes it fun to walk through with a sense of surprise and exploration.
The question, how is this watered?
This is watered off of drip. Lawns are usually watered off of sprayers, but there's a drip irrigation system here.
And how, do you have any idea? I mean, like in this current, we're in San Antonio, so in the current rainy season we've been having, probably not have to be supplemented with any water. But if we're going through a traditional hot Texas summer, how often does this type of landscape need watering?
Depending on what plants you use, sometimes none. But a little supplemental irrigation in summer during a drought helps, but never more than once a week for the landscape beds. Now, typically, a landscape like this is watered every week all year long, but that's because homeowners often don't check the settings on the sprinklers. If you need help with that, call us at SAWS.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good, that's kind of a good segue into, this weekend there is a tax holiday for Watersaver products, and I think it also includes plants. We'll put it on the Facebook feed and maybe also on our Twitter feed. We'll add the link. I know it's been shared a few times. But this might be a great time for people to not only reconsider their design, but get out there and actually get hands-on and change things out, and then call us if they have questions.
This is a great time of year to start looking at your landscape because you're not going to be spending a lot of time lying out in the grass this time of year. So if your landscape's not doing what you want it to do, if you're not having fun with it in summer, you might think of redesign.
Now, what about, we talked a lot about pollinators. Is this a garden that would attract pollinators?
Yes.
Okay.
You may be seeing the butterflies that are in here right now, but lantanas, salvias, and milkweeds. There's pollinators all over this garden. So this is a great butterfly garden. And in fact, there have been, I don't know if you're seeing it, but there are redbirds and blue jays on the ground behind us.
Yes. And
There's a lot of entertainment here. It's like Snow White.
It is like Snow White. You were telling me about this big tree behind us. That's actually bay laurel?
That's edible bay laurel.
Wow.
So just like in soup. In fact, there's bay laurel, pomegranate, and a fig tree. So this is an edible landscape. What may not be obvious is that it's also a xeriscape. And this is how good a well-designed xeriscape can look.
Do we have any other questions? Anything pop up?
Are there any coupon programs available for similar plants?
There's a Watersaver Landscape coupon which will begin again in the fall for laying out a new landscape bed. SAWS will help you. We'll send you a coupon to get. In the fall, it's going to be 7 plants and a small shrub to help you start.
Yes, and we just finished a coupon where that's how I redid my front lawn, where a lot of these plants, the lantanas, the salvias, the little tiny daisies, all of those were included in there. But if you buy the plants relatively small, some of our really good reputable nurseries carry these, and they're anywhere between $6 and $8 for like a little 5-gallon pot. So it's a great way to start your landscape.
Remember, when you're at the nursery, a lot of times all you have to do to get help is just remember and ask them. Tell them I need color for sun, and I want something yellow. Yes. If they understand the part of town you live in and the requirements of your plants, they can help you. Just remember, and here's some pollinators. Mark's pointing. Two of the things you need to pay attention to before you go to the store are you planting for sun? And here we're dealing with sun. Yes. So, one of the easiest ways to tell is just to, you may not know how much sun you're dealing with. So, but just put a marker in the lawn and just write down on a piece of paper. Look at it 12 times in a day and just write down whether it's in sun or shade. So if it's getting 8 hours of sun, you have full sun. If sun never strikes the marker, say you have full shade. And let them know when you're picking your plants that you're looking for full sun or for shade.
So now I have kind of an odd question. Like I said, I have a lot of these plants that I just planted, and I have an odd setup because the front of my house is not the entrance, it's actually the side.
Okay.
And then that goes up to a porch and then goes to the entrance. So I planted a lot of these plants in the front, but I also planted some taller ones kind of on the side where we park our cars. I'm now beginning to wonder if that's a mistake and if I should try to correct now or if I should just maintain its size. What are your suggestions on something like that?
You know, if the plant is really in the wrong place and if you're spending too much effort cutting it back, then plants can be transplanted. The best time of year to do that is January when they're dormant, before they get too big.
Okay, perfect.
But if you're using a salvia, it can be cut back freely during the growing season. With the rule of thumb with a sage or salvia is to cut off no more than a third at a time. But you can do that in June and again in August. Okay. And if you don't want to do that every year, it might be a good idea to transplant it.
Transplant it, true, exactly. So for those of you that maybe just joined us, I just want to remind you who we are and what we're doing. I'm Lily, this is Brad, we're with San Antonio Water System. We are at the San Antonio Botanical Gardens and we are doing a simultaneous live broadcast on Periscope and Facebook Live talking to you about Watersaver landscape design. You might hear, it is a regular working day at the San Antonio Botanical Gardens. I see a group of kids coming our way. They'll probably end up right where we're at because it's probably the prettiest landscape. But just wanted to let you guys know that's what we've been talking about, ideal landscape design. And we can certainly direct you to gardenstylesa.com anytime that you want to find out. There's some landscape design plans on there, there's some plant recommendations, tons of really useful information. You can sign up to receive the newsletter if that's something you want to get in your email once a week, but if not, you can just come visit us as often as you like on gardenstylesa.com to learn all about not just landscape but conservation and plants in general. So do we have any other questions?
One last question.
Okay.
What do you recommend for rocky soils?
What do we recommend for rocky soils?
Typically, if you're, and that's a very good question, by the way. If you're planting in rocky soils north of Hildebrand or 1604 in general in San Antonio, you're going to need to use natives, or at least look at natives. Many of our native plants are well adapted to grow easily and look good in thin soil. But plants that need deep roots, like St. Augustine grass, won't do as well. One of the best things you can do is actually to take a shovel before you pick your plants and dig a test hole and see how deep your soil is. If you live on the south side, you may have a foot of sand or 6 feet of sand. If you live in town, you may have 8 inches of clay. But if you live north of 1604, you're probably dealing with 2 inches of soil, if that. And that's thin soil, thin rocky soil. So you're going to be using lantanas, sages, sinizos, and Mark's pointing at the Dahlberg daisy very enthusiastically.
I guess it's an ideal plant for that type of soil because it doesn't have very deep roots.
Yeah, and you can see Dahlberg daisy, Blackfoot daisy, Damianita are all growing on their own in Friedrich Park with no attention whatsoever.
That's true. That's maybe a good idea that we can visit some natural landscapes like Friedrich Park that are in our general area and get some ideas of what is growing there natively just to see how kind of nature has laid out things.
And you'll see that there's a lot of color and shade with no supplemental irrigation.
What is the plant to the left of the salvia here?
There's lantana, the very popular butterfly plant. This is possibly the native lantana. There's sage. This is indigo spires salvia, a great butterfly and hummingbird plant. And behind it you see some roses.
And the knockout roses are pretty popular as a kind of a water saver, right?
These, they're a very popular water saver. These are not looking great, but they've been recently cut back. They're getting some shade here in the afternoon. Roses like a lot of sun. They also like deep soil. So they may not be favoring this hilltop location as much as some of the natives.
Yes. And this here?
Oh, here's Liriope. It's a kind of lily turf. Very popular plant. Does very well in shade.
Does it flower?
It does flower. It's not dramatic.
Just little, like a little thing with little yellow flowers?
Tiny little yellow, tiny little lily flowers, stalks.
All right.
Oh, so did you ask that on purpose?
I did, because it's a lily. So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate you joining us. Please feel free to share this broadcast on either Periscope or Facebook Live. Give us some feedback and let us know if there's any other questions or topics you want us to address. We're usually on at 10:30 every Thursday, and then we'll bring you some other random Periscopes whenever the opportunity arises. So thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.